so many of us get really overly fixated on desire, where we want to feel that super passionate, super intense desire. And undoubtedly that's fun in the moments that we do feel it.
Yeah.
But I think that we put a pressure on desire for sex in a way that we don't put pressure on anything else in our lives.
What if the reason your sex life feels frustrating, disconnected, or inconsistent isn't your relationship? It's the way you've been taught to think about desire. What if desire isn't something you have, but something you create? This is such a fun and eye-opening conversation with Vanessa Marin. We talk about why desire discrepancy is completely normal, how most couples are having sex that isn't actually worth wanting, and what it takes to build a connected, fulfilling sex life. Vanessa Marin is a licensed psychotherapist, sex therapist, and globally recognized intimacy educator who has helped millions of people improve their relationships and sex lives through her courses, podcasts, and media coverage. As you'll hear, Vanessa combines clinical expertise with humor and practical tools, making conversations about sex more accessible, actionable, and grounded. If you're ready to learn how to stop having sex that feels like a chore and start having sex that feels like connection, you'll want to listen all the way through. Welcome to Sexology Lab. Each week, we speak with the most compelling minds in modern sexology to ask the questions shaping the future of desire, connection, and human wellness. Let's dive in. And I just want to jump right in. I want to know from your perspective, what's it like being part of a couple that's so public about your intimate life? You're so open about your bedroom and what you try together. So what is that like?
Okay, I'll be honest. I definitely have the occasional vulnerability hangover. Yeah, like you said, my husband and I, Xander and I, we share a lot on our social accounts. And there will definitely be times where I wake up the next morning and think, oh my God, I really posted that on Instagram. Also, my parents follow our account, my grandma, my aunts and uncles. So it's out there. But, you know, when it comes to sex and intimacy, I think we come from this place of it's such a vulnerable topic, and we're asking our community to do really vulnerable things. So Xander and I want to be role models and show people, look, we can do this too. We will be willing to go first and embarrass ourselves on Instagram, acting out weird positions or talk about a time that we tried to have sex and it failed horribly, just to show you like, other people can do it and you can do it too. So it's really that tie back to the mission, the work that we're trying to do that motivates me to keep going even when I am so very red in the face.
Absolutely. There's one of your videos, and I think it's titled like things they don't show you on TV about intimacy.
Yeah.
And Xander's like, I got to go to the bathroom. And then the sheet like comes off the side of the bed. I was laughing so hard. I'm like, that is the realist.
That has been one of our most popular series on Instagram. We actually polled our audience and we made the first few and we said, tell us what other things we should do. And people absolutely went wild over it. They said, you know, these are the things that happen to all of us. The lube squirting out everywhere, the sheets coming up, somebody farting, or your chest making that weird squelching sound. But you don't see it anywhere. And so when we started making this series, people really saw themselves in that. And it helped them be able to just laugh, realize all the normal, silly, awkward, goofy parts of sex, and all of that's okay. And yeah, we keep doing it because we just keep getting new ideas from people like, oh, do this one, do this one. I haven't seen you guys do this yet.
Oh, I love it. It's hilarious. And it's just so real. Now, I want to know, Vanessa, what's your 30-second origin story? So how did you find your way into this world and wanting to create this type of content?
My parents very awkwardly trying to give me the talk. I think most of us can relate to that. They really tried. They were both coming from a lot of sexual trauma and shame themselves, but all that they could muster was, if you have any questions about sex, they couldn't even really fully say the word out loud, you can ask us. And that was it. And I knew that despite them inviting me to ask them questions, I knew even at 11 years old at the time that what they were really saying was, please, for the love of God, don't ask us anything about this. We don't want to talk about it. And I had no idea that sex therapy existed as a career at that time. But that moment stuck with me, the feeling of, why is this so embarrassing? I talked to my parents about everything else. We're so close, but why can't we talk about this? What's wrong with talking about this?
Yeah, yeah. And now our partner, Sexual Health Alliance, trains people who want to work in sexology. And so what's the most important thing professionals need to know in this space?
I think it really has to start from doing your own work. So many of us are fascinated by the topic, and a lot of us are just natural helpers. We want to help other people. But I really firmly believe that it has to start with us being willing to examine our own relationships with sexuality, with shame, our history, our decision making in the past. We have to develop a better understanding of ourselves before we can really serve other people.
Oh, I love that. Yep. You have to do the work first and then go out and help others.
Sometimes I wish you didn't have to.
Wouldn't that be
don't
easier?
worry about me. I'm fine. But I think that's what's so cool about sex is that there's always another layer to get to. We never arrive at this place where, I am a fully sexually expressed human being. I have tried everything. I have the perfect sex. Like there's always something new to explore, to try, something new about ourselves to understand, to experience. So I think that's also what makes it so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always growing. We're always learning. And like you said, there's always something new to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've been doing this work for over 20 years. How has your understanding of sexual problems and their solutions changed over time?
I started getting into this field when I was 18 years old. I started working with researchers and, doing projects and all of that. And I think over time, I've learned how to get a lot more specific about how I serve my clients. When I was starting in this field, there was just so much generic and vague advice. And, this field is still relatively new. We haven't been around for that long. I know. And I think even just talking about sex was such a huge step forward, which I really appreciate. But at the time, there was just so much advice like, just talk about it. Just try new things. I actually really struggled with my own orgasm for a very long time. I could orgasm on my own, but I really couldn't get there with a partner. And even as I was becoming, part of this field, studying, researching, I couldn't find any advice other than just don't think about it. Just let it happen. Relax.
Oh, not relax. That's terrible.
That kind of advice really drove me nuts. I mean, it's good advice, but it's not enough. That's not nearly enough. So the ways that I have developed, really trying to get more specific with what exactly do I say and how do I say it and when do I say it and what do I respond if my partner says this, or, with exploring orgasm, like what are the exact kinds of ways that I need to touch my body or have my partner touch my body. And I think that level of specificity has just been really helpful and transformative for me personally, and definitely for the people that I work with too.
Oh, 100%. Like you have to give specific instructions. A lot of people don't know. And, when they don't know what to do. So like we have to really be there with specific instructions to help them out. Now, I want to talk a little bit about desire discrepancy. So,
yes, the hot topic.
The hot topic. So it's one of the most common issues that couples face. So what do you think that therapists often misunderstand about desire discrepancy?
I think we need to do a better job normalizing it. I like to say every couple has desire discrepancies. Like you're never going to find a partner who wants sex at the exact same time you do, the exact same kind of sex every single time. Like if you really think about it, that would be super weird. Every time you initiated, your partner was like, oh my God, I was literally just about to initiate with you. So I think helping us recognize like every couple has desire discrepancies. I think that's the good starting point. Lately, though, what I've been playing around a lot with that I haven't seen very many other therapists talk about is I think we're putting too much pressure on desire. So I want to be really clear. I'm only talking about emotionally and physically safe relationships where there is no coercion involved, sort of abuse involved, where a no is always respected no matter what. So that's the container here. But I think so many of us get really overly fixated on desire, where we want to feel that super passionate, super intense desire. And undoubtedly that's fun in the moments that we do feel it.
Yeah.
But I think that we put a pressure on desire for sex in a way that we don't put pressure on anything else in our lives. So tell me if you've ever had this experience Last week, I had a dinner date with a girlfriend. I was super excited to see her. We hadn't seen each other in a while. We had a lot of catching up to do. I'm very excited leading up to it. And then the day rolls around. It was raining. I had some new Bravo shows that had come out that I really wanted to catch up on. I didn't really want to leave my house. It was just that feeling of like, oh, I hope she cancels on me, right? But I still went and I had a great time and I was really glad that I did. And I didn't beat myself up for that. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm not over the moon excited? I'm not jumping off the couch to go see my friend. What's wrong with me that I'm feeling a little bit ambivalent about it? We can bring that same sort of energy into sex. And especially because so many of us have responsive desire where we're not going to feel that wild, passionate mental desire out of nowhere. But I just think, what if we focused more on our experience of sex and how we feel after we've had sex rather than the feelings before?
Yeah. Oh, I love that example so much because personally, my friends and I, this happens to all of us every single time. We plan a night out and then every single one of us are like, oh, we don't want to leave the house, but we do. We started making ourselves get out. And like once we get there, we have so much fun. It's an amazing time. But it's like, we don't like punish ourselves for feeling that way. So what if you did take that mentality into your relationship? Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, get to the restaurant and then see how you feel. Don't be mad because you didn't want to go.
Exactly. Yeah, I think in general, I really want people to focus more on our experience of sex rather than our desire for it. And this is a huge thing that I see so much with people. Probably the number one complaint is I have low desire or no desire. And we'll ask people, okay, well, tell us about the sex that you do have. Yeah. And what people will describe is sex that is not worth desiring. It's boring. It's repetitive. It's just about my partner. I can predict exactly how the entire evening is going to unfold. I get nothing out of it. And so we always ask, okay, then why would you desire that? It doesn't make any sense to desire that.
Right.
I also compare it to a bowl of mushy broccoli. Like, does anybody ever crave a bowl of overly steamed, unseasoned, mushy broccoli? There's probably someone out there who does, but for the vast majority of us, no, right? And do we beat ourselves up for not craving overly steamed, mushy, unseasoned broccoli? Absolutely not. But a lot of us are having sex that is the equivalent of some overly steamed, mushy broccoli and beating ourselves up for not wanting it.
Absolutely. That's like going back to like the girls' night out at the restaurant. Like if you knew you were going there and everyone else was going to be having like chocolate cake, but you were just going to be sitting there with nothing or like a piece of lettuce, like you wouldn't be that excited about it.
Yeah. Absolutely not. So yeah, let's take a lot of the pressure off of desire. Let's focus more on our experience of it and what the result of it is. I think those things matter a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. All right, now you've transitioned from primarily seeing clients to reaching millions through digital courses and your podcast and social media. So what motivated that shift for you?
I'll be fully honest with you. I never wanted to be a therapist to begin with. I always wanted to do sex therapy. That was always the interest, but I wanted to become a therapist to get that clinical foundation, that background, to do my own work. Going to school to become a therapist is pretty gnarly. And so I wanted to do that. So I started off seeing people in that traditional format, but my practice filled up really quickly. I also realized I only have so much capacity for how many people I can work with. And it's really important to me that I bring the right amount of energy to my clients. So I can't see that many if I'm really focused on that. I also realized that a lot of my clients were just saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. And ultimately, what matters the most to me is I wanted to be able to make the biggest impact. I wanted to be able to help as many people as I possibly could. So that's when I started thinking about online guides and courses. And then I had one of those funny life moments where the universe kind of makes a decision for you because you're hesitating to make it yourself. It was just a couple of weeks after I had actually finally gotten my license, after all those years of, doing hours and internships and everything, I'd finally gotten licensed and I got rear-ended in a really nasty car accident. And I could not sit in a chair in a therapist's office without having debilitating chronic pain. So that ended up being the catalyst for me to say, okay, I've been thinking about this for a while. Now I think it's time to make the move.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the universe does just push you where you need to go.
Yeah, looking back at it now, it all makes sense, but in the moment, it was not
Oh,
fun.
oh no. Oh,
But yeah, I love working with online guides and courses because it's so easy for people. It's accessible. It's a lot more affordable than seeing me one on one. They don't have to worry about. People are always telling me like, I'm worried about seeing my neighbor in your waiting room.
yeah. Yeah.
And I was in San Francisco at the time, like, oh, parking is so inconvenient. So yeah, people can just be able to get my tools and resources in the privacy and comfort of their own home. It makes it much easier.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Did you ever expect that you would be reaching millions? Like, I mean, that was probably your goal to reach a lot of people, but did you expect it to just like blow up like it has?
No, it's definitely been a really pleasant surprise. I mean, I always wanted to be able to serve as many people as I could. So I'm so thrilled and so honored, but I didn't expect it to reach the level that it has.
Are you curious about sexology? Do you want to further integrate sexology into your work or your life? Well, friends, then we've got something just for you. It's called the Sexology Practice Guide, and it walks you through the ways this shows up in your work, in your life, and guides you through working within your scope, incorporating intimacy and sexual health into your work without starting over. Download this short, practical guide at sexologylab.com/guide. That's sexologylab.com/guide. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe and share. And now back to the show. And so I think your work represents a new model for sex therapists. So educating at scale. So what were your biggest challenges in building that kind of platform?
Well, first I was trying to figure out what course to create. I had so many different ideas, so many things that I wanted to experiment with. So that was the first challenge. And then it was really trying to help people understand an online course in this area. I built my first course in 2013, and there really weren't very many other people doing it at that time. So
No.
I had a lot of people saying like, what do you mean a course? I don't get it. How does
Right.
it work online? What do you mean? So having to educate people about how it worked. Also, a big thing which continues even to this day is helping people realize that it's actually legit. A lot of our customers think that they are going to be scammed. We'll have people
Oh.
say, oh, do you just have a payment page up, but I'm not actually going to get anything? Or occasionally there's systems fail and somebody doesn't get their access information and they'll reach out to our customer service team and say, oh gosh, I think I've been scammed. And we'll have to tell them, no, it was just a little accident with our back end system. Here you go. Here's the course. So really helping people recognize like, no, this is a legit business. You are going to get the item that you purchased. That's been an ongoing challenge for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think people are hesitant when things are online. They're just not sure. If they haven't talked to like a real person, they're kind of iffy about it. So that is a challenge with an online business.
Yeah.
Now, you and your husband, Xander, teach together, which is unique. And how does that dynamic shape the way people engage with your work?
I always had this idea from the very beginning of when I started building online guides and courses that I wanted him to be involved. And once it started taking off, he came into my business to work on all the back end stuff to help me with some of the technical stuff, the operations. I really needed help and I wanted us to work together. And I started bothering him right from the very beginning, telling him, I think that we need to make content together. And I think that we need to talk about our own relationship. I was coming from my therapist training, which obviously tells you, not to reveal anything about yourself. That's not the point. But I just had this feeling like with sex, like we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, it's so vulnerable that I wanted to be able to go first and be that model for our community. But Xander was extremely resistant at the beginning.
Really?
He said, I'm not a therapist. I have no training in this area. I've watched you go to school and get degrees and work so hard in all these different areas, and I haven't done any of that. And I told him, I think that's the point. Like I can give the experience, I can give the expertise, But I think sometimes people also like hearing from just a regular dude. That's actually his official title in the business. He's the regular dude.
The regular dude.
Just like hearing from a real couple who have been through things like this, and just hearing a regular person who doesn't have all that training. It took about 4 years. And eventually I just like started shoving the camera in front of him on Instagram and saying, babe, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And eventually he realized like, okay, this is actually kind of fun. That was about the end of 2020 that he started becoming a lot more involved in the content. And that was another huge inflection point for our business. I think people really resonated with being able to hear both of those perspectives, to have, my experience, but also to just hear him talk about it in regular everyday people terms. Also having two sides of a relationship. We try to be careful with our content to not be too heteronormative, but obviously we're, a cis male and female couple, but just being able to hear, my side of something and his side of something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do also think a lot of men feel a lot safer seeing another man there. That can sometimes open the door for men who might not otherwise have looked at our content to, to feel more comfortable taking a look at it. And we also just really have a lot of fun together. We try to show sex doesn't actually have to be so serious. I know it feels really serious sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. And I think people really connect with that energy that we create together.
Yeah, it's such a fun dynamic. And watching your content now, I would have never guessed he was hesitant like at the beginning.
I know, right? Now he loves it. Now it's like I can't like do anything to embarrass him. He's like, "Oh, I'll do it." Sure. Yeah, no, I'll do that.
I love it. And I think it's a fun dynamic too, like having that partner dynamic, but also having like a male perspective on things. I think that's valuable to the whole community.
Yeah. And we really try to design a lot of our content to help open up conversations within the couples who are watching. Yeah. So, I'll give my take, he'll give his take, and we'll say, well, what, ask your partner this, ask what they think about that. Listen to our podcast episode and pause it at this point and talk about how you guys feel. So I think that seeing us as the example, and especially when we talk about our own challenges too, because we've been through a lot of stuff, orgasm challenges, mismatched libidos, low libido, performance issues, hearing us talk about it, I think gives permission to couples to realize like, oh, we're not the only ones dealing with this. So, hey, we can talk about it too.
Yeah, and it gives an example and a framework. And I think that's so helpful to people to see real people doing the real work of communication together. It just gives them like a script sometimes to follow.
Oh, yeah. We love giving scripts too. That's another thing about us being so specific.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ever tell you like, just talk to your partner about it. I'm say, here's what to say.
Yeah, and that's extremely important because I think unless you grew up with really excellent models of communication around you, especially talking about sex, you don't have a script in your mind. Like all you have is like what's you've seen in movies and on TV. And, so having that is super helpful.
Yeah. And there's hardly ever any communication on movies and TV either, right? Like we never get any examples. Oh, that's how I should say something. And yeah, Xander and I learned a lot of that through trial and error, doing everything the wrong way. Like we wrote our book, Sex Talks, the 5 conversations that every couple should have. And so many of those, the book is very, very personal. I mean, the first page of it is us in couples therapy for the first time. But so many of the examples of, okay, this is how you should have the conversation, or this is the conversation you should have, were inspired by us doing the exact opposite and getting into a big fight about it. So we learned the hard way. We had to muck through it on our own, and that really helped us develop more specific scripts and tools for other couples.
Yeah, but that's real life. People are mucking through it. And when you can learn from somebody else, maybe so you don't have to make all the same mistakes, it's very helpful. All right. I would like to know, based on your work with thousands of couples, what do you think is the single biggest factor that determines whether couples stay intimate long term?
Their willingness to talk openly about their sex life. We wrote a book about sexual communication for a reason. Like we truly think that your willingness to talk about it. And I'm very careful about saying willingness because most of us suck at it. I was terrible at it, even with so many years being in this field. I was terrible at talking openly about sex, but I was willing to. And Xander was willing to. Yeah, so you might muck through it a little bit. You might have some disagreements. You might not be perfect communicators, but you're willing to talk openly about it. That's the number one thing for me.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you've been part of normalizing sexual conversations online. So how do you think the conversation around sex has changed over the past decade?
Okay, the first thing that came to mind for me is I was thinking about female orgasm. Early in my career, that was one of the topics that I became known for is, helping women who were high achieving women, felt like I have every other aspect of my life I'm kicking ass at, but I just cannot figure things out in the bedroom, and specifically with orgasm. One of the really interesting things that I remember hearing at that time was a lot of women were saying, even though sex is starting to be talked about a lot more openly, it actually is making me feel worse. Hearing all these, all the different kinds of orgasms that, women are talking about, going out to brunch with my girlfriends and they're bragging about their sex lives. Like, it actually makes me feel a little bit worse because I haven't even figured out like one way to have an orgasm. So that's always been really fascinating for me that, obviously I'm a huge proponent of us talking about sex openly. And I do think in a lot of ways, the more detail, the more nuance we get into, the better. But it's also interesting to notice the ways that sometimes it can actually negatively impact people too. It's very interesting.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. My first thought was like censorship. Do you feel like you're more censored now than you were a decade ago?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On Instagram in particular, you've probably seen in all of our reels, we have to bleep out all of the words. Yeah. And it wasn't like that. Even just a few years ago, Instagram really started cracking down. Technically, Instagram views our content as solicitation and as porn. Instagram doesn't see any distinction between educational sexual content and me, posting a picture bent over, spreading my cheeks, right? They're like, same thing. And that's been really frustrating. So we play the game on Instagram because we'd rather our content reach people censored than not reach them at all. But it has been interesting to see ways that we've gone backwards in that we didn't used to have to do that. And now we do.
Yeah, it is such a challenge. I know lots of people in this industry are going through it. It's just so hard.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten so many messages from Instagram threatening to, shut down our account. We've had our account frozen for weeks at a time, multiple times. We've had to take down countless reels. And it's so funny, too. Some of the ones that they tell us to pull down, I'm like, that's not even about sex. That's like a funny relationship reel. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. And it can be incredibly frustrating to navigate.
Yeah, definitely. We feel you. We understand.
I'm really tired of the bleeping. We actually just today, my team was talking to me about a reel that we have coming up about the different types of orgasms. And my social media manager was like, we literally have to bleep out every other word because you kept saying clitoris and orgasm and clitoris and orgasm. And it's like beep, 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 beep. So it's really frustrating sometimes.
I know. And that's how our social team feels about when we do interviews like this. It's like we have to talk about stuff. We can't just not say it.
Yeah. We also came up with, we try to have like a little separate vocabulary too. Like we'll say socks, instead of it. Or we'll mime something like when we're doing foreplay, we'll hold up 4 fingers and then say play, or the little corn emoji for porn. It's a whole other language now.
It is. You have to get creative. And even though it's a pain, you do what you got to do to get your content to people so that they can get that education. And it's important work.
I'll give you a little tip to anybody who's struggling with this on social media. One thing that we've found to be really effective is getting our community pissed off about this. So we've shared with them, hey, we don't want to be doing this stupid censoring. We hate it. We want to normalize saying the words, but this is what Instagram forces us to do. When we have our account frozen, I just screenshotted the complaints that come up. I screenshotted our account being frozen and I've shared it with people. And I think that it's small, but it's really helped build this sense of community with our people as they feel like they get fired up for us. Like, that's I can't believe you guys have to do that. Who can I call? I'm like, I wish there was someone at Instagram that you could call. I really appreciate it. I don't think there is, but thank you. I think a lot of our community feels like they're a part of something.
Yeah.
They're part of something bigger. And yeah, it helps us feel like a more tight-knit community.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They value that transparency that you're like, hey, like this isn't how I would love to be doing things, but this is the world we're in. So we're going to just do our best.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. Links are in the description below.